This segment actually brought a tear to my eye. It is from Johnstone, and I encourage all of you to follow her on her social media. It's her commentary on the Democratic Party exists to make sure good people do nothing. I will not interrupt the reading by Tim Foley, but it should tell all of you just how unserious this political party truly is. The Democratic Party, in my opinion, is a party of liars, frauds, and fakes. I think in most part, both parties are filled with incompetent people. Okay, both parties. And how dare you, people would say to me, not support the Democrats? I guess that makes you a bad person. Well, you know what? Democrats, liberals, I think you have to come to terms where your party makes sure that good people does nothing, that we do nothing. So I want to give this up for Johnstone. If anyone hasn't seen this already, I'll be posting the original link in the comment section for this clip video. But let's go ahead and play it for all of you to listen.
The Democratic Party exists to make sure good people do nothing. The reason I criticize the Democrats so much can be explained in the aphorism, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." The Democratic Party exists to ensure that good people will do nothing. Gaza is such a perfect example of this. When Instagram progressive Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez promulgates the blatant lie that Kamala Harris is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, the result is that people who trust AOC will relax and stop pushing for an end to the genocide. They have been told by the congresswoman who's been marketed as standing as far to the left as anyone can reasonably be that the current administration can be trusted to take care of this thing. So all they need to do to save Gaza is vote for the vice president in November. It isn't necessary to impose such manipulations upon Republicans who simply support Israel's atrocities in Gaza because they believe Muslims should be exterminated, and because Israel is going to fulfill a biblical prophecy that will bring back Jesus and send all the heathens to burn in hell. Such manipulations are only necessary to politically nullify the kinds of people who would otherwise see what's happening in Gaza and move mountains to end this mass atrocity. So many of the world's problems wouldn't exist if the Democratic Party simply was what it pretends to be. If it really did stand against the sickest impulses of the Republican Party, if it really did stand for peace and justice and equality and ordinary working people, things would be unrecognizably different, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. Because good people would be doing something instead of nothing, evil would not triumph. The Democratic Party exists to prevent this from happening. Instead of a good faction standing against an evil faction, the world's most powerful and influential government instead has two evil factions working together toward the advancement of evil agendas. But what makes it so destructive is that it's not just two openly evil factions. It's one openly evil faction and another faction which pretends to stand with good people against the evil faction. If it was two openly evil factions, good people would immediately recognize that their goals are not being represented by either party, and a real revolutionary movement would emerge. What makes the Democratic Party such an effective psyop is that it stops good people from recognizing that everyone with power and influence in their country is their enemy, and it stops them from responding accordingly. For 10.5 months, American progressives have been mollified into a state of paralysis with empty words about a ceasefire and a two-state solution by a political party that has never had any real intention of bringing about either of these things. The Biden administration has been just as guilty in Israel's genocidal atrocities as the Netanyahu regime itself, but by paying lip service to humanitarian concerns and pretending to be working toward peace while regularly leaking stories to the press about how angry and stern Biden is with Netanyahu, they've been able to wash their hands of their guilt in the eyes of many. That has been the single defining feature of this presidential race. Not electing the first female president, not stopping Trump, not saving American democracy, whatever the hell that means. The single defining feature of this presidential race has been one of America's two mainstream factions claiming to want peace and justice for Palestinians while supporting an administration that has been butchering them in a horrifying genocide. That's the effect of the Democratic Party, and it's been doing this since long before October 7th. Obama made a whole political legacy out of weaving tapestries of flowery prose expressing deep compassion and a love of peace and justice, while spending 8 years continuing and expanding all the most depraved and murderous policies of his predecessor. Biden gave liberals throughout the Western world a sigh of relief when he took office because at long last the adults are back in the room. And now he's waging a steadily escalating proxy war against a nuclear superpower while backing an actual genocide. An empire whose existence depends on endless violence, oppression, and exploitation at home and abroad cannot afford to have a major political party which stands against those things. So it doesn't. And because it doesn't, while pretending that it does, it is able to relegate objections to this tyranny to the fringes of political discourse. So I criticize the Democrats more than the Republicans because they require more criticism. That Republicans are evil is obvious at a glance to anyone with a conscience. That Democrats are evil is much less obvious and usually requires quite a bit more consciousness and commentary to understand. The empire has weaponized the insight that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. So, spreading awareness of the reality that the Democrats are not good people and are not doing good things helps take away that weapon. Evil will continue to triumph as long as good people continue to do nothing. And good people will continue to do nothing as long as they believe their values and desires are represented by a political party whose sole purpose is to ensure the triumph of evil. Shattering that belief is an absolutely essential step toward a healthy world. This should be a major goal of good people everywhere.
That's a very good note to end it on. I didn't want to interrupt. I wanted to play its full entirety. Look, folks, I have gotten so much heat from a lot of friends and liberals and Democrats saying, oh, how dare you support third parties? How dare you support independents? What do you mean it's our fault that Trump won? What do you mean you're not going to support the Democrats? You must be evil, evil, evil. It is not my fault that the Democrats have lost the message. It is not my fault the Democratic Party has embraced corporatism, neoliberalism, the banks, the lobby groups, AIPAC, all of that. It is not my fault. They did this to themselves. And no matter what happens on election night, we will still be screwed over. But what a sight it would be if people actually did wake up and break away from both parties. And I said both parties because nothing will fundamentally change until we, the people, say enough. It's time for people to wake up. It's time for people to break away. It's time for people to become serious now. Become serious and actually stand up against the neoliberal policies of this horrific administration, the Biden-Harris administration. But dare I say it, if Trump wins, yes, his neoliberal policies. Or if it's Kamala, her neoliberal policies. I know that there were good people at the DNC. Yes, I will make that controversial statement. But there are so many people who are hypnotized by the propaganda that it will be difficult to deprogram a lot of individuals. You know, I used to be a Democratic voter until I realized, until I woke up, just how corrupt they truly are. It's a long road, folks. But so long as there are voices like this, Hard Lens Media, and there are people like you watching, there is a chance for a better future. But don't put your stock into a politician. Don't put all your hopes into a political party. The real hero is you. And the only way good can triumph is if we break the system that's preventing us from being good. Both parties have contributed to the destruction of people here and worldwide. We want that better future. We need to make it happen now. No more AOCs or Bernie Sanders. We're done with the BS.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry, it's spent a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, "Not me, us," as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day, and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd, and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now, we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we can exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. Because he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.